so that we have actually got it, because there's a few people that said that they couldn't dial in, but they wanted to. Let me just, sorry, I've just got to. The sun is, it's shame to shut out the sun, but it is actually too bright. And so let me share. There we go. Oh, no, that's now the wrong screen, isn't it? You can see the presenter version, can't you? Let me change that. Can you now see the main presentation, I hope?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, that is a good start then. That's much better than we did before.
You'll just have to edit the first bit out, Charlie.
No, that's fine. Right, so innovation is such a key thing in our business, whether it comes to our marketing or whether it comes to the way that we run our back office system or the front stage stuff. Sorry, that as well. You know, there's so much power in constant innovation in our business. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, and about an innovation to a mature business. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Because a mature business is essentially where our business becomes its most valuable and its most profitable. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. But before I do, because there's a few people dialing into this for the first time, it's always useful to explain what we're trying to do with the Breakthrough Business Breakfast. And really what it was born out of was I'd spent, you know, I set up a fishing portfolio in 2006, so 14 years. And over those 14 years, I wanted to keep trying to make it the best business possible. So I attended every course I could find. I read every book I thought was valuable. And what I decided to do 2 or 3 years ago was to try and work out what I felt were the best ideas I'd taken from the around now 200 business books I'd read and all the courses I'd been on, pick out the best ideas, the ones that had made the greatest impact to our business, and try and refine them down. And what I concluded was that it was really, if you wanted to get to what I ended up calling entrepreneurial happiness, there was really three principles that you needed to master. And the first was the money side of the business, because if you don't have enough money coming into your business, not only can you not employ the people that you want to employ, or employ the marketing strategies that you want to employ, or you know, develop the business in the way you want to, but you can also not live the life that you're entitled to for working hard in your business. So you need to master the money side of the business, otherwise it holds everything else back. But once you've done that, you also need to master the time side of your business. You know, I was certainly at a time a few years ago where I was working every hour that God sends, and it was meaning that I was missing out on watching my children grow up. I wasn't spending enough time with my wife. I was in the worst physical shape I'd ever been in, and it really wasn't the way that it wasn't conducive to a long and healthy life or a happy life. And so if you don't want to miss out on keeping yourself as fit and healthy as you need to be, and spending the time with the people that you care most about and doing the things that you love most, then you need to master this work-life balance principle around time. And then finally, the last piece was the fun side of business, because actually I met so many business owners within our financial planning business that all the fun had gone out of their business. You know, they'd gone into a business to particularly, you know, because they loved something, let's say carpentry, for example, like an example I use in my book. As a carpenter, you know, he absolutely loved carpentry, but over time, the longer he ran the business, he found that he did less and less carpentry and more of the other stuff that he didn't enjoy. So if you're going to really find that sweet spot of entrepreneurial happiness, you need to be making great money. You need to be having, you need to be working as much or as little as you want to. But when you are working, you absolutely need to be enjoying it. You know, you need to be passionate about what you do. And so what I did was I took all the best ideas from all of these different resources, and of course some of the ones that we worked out ourselves, and put them together. And those are related to money we put into what we now call the profitable business plan. So over the first few Breakthrough Business Breakfasts, we were going through the 4 stages of the profitable business plan, looking at how we can make more money in our business. Second stage which we just come to the end of in the Breakthrough Business Breakfast, is going through the free life business model, which again was a 5-step approach with all the best ideas around work-life balance to try and re-engineer your business. And clearly that doesn't happen overnight, but by using the tools that are in the free life business model, you can massively transform your work-life balance. So using those tools, I've gone from working every hour God sends and not really taking any holiday to having 3 months of the year off. I only work a 4-day week. And when I'm here, and and I almost never work a evening or a weekend. So those tools genuinely have transformed my work-life balance. And now finally, what we're starting to do is dive into the Epic Business Blueprint, and that's how we can make our business fun, and how we can genuinely love the time that we spend at work, and so that we're passionate about doing it. So as I said, that's what we've been going through so far. And today I want to dive into the principles of the Epic Business, or the first principle of the Epic Business Blueprint. By the way, I know some of you are dialing in for the first time and you've missed all of the Profitable Business Plan and all of the free life business model. If you want them in a digital format, I can give you those in a digital format. They are available online to buy, but as somebody that's dialing in to the Breakthrough Business Breakfast, I'm more than happy to give you those for free. So if you want to play catch up, you can do. Alternatively, you can also read my book, Entrepreneurial Happiness, which is essentially based around this whole model as well. But as I said, today I want to dive into the Innovate, which is the first step of the Epic Business Blueprint. And I want to start by talking about a principle called the business life cycle. And this is something that I was taught at Business Mastery by Tony Robbins. And it really helped me click and understand how the business evolves and the next steps for our business. So essentially, I'm going to kind of give you a very potted summary of it, and then I'm going to dive into the stages in a little bit more detail. But essentially, like any life, you have birth and at the start, and then you have infancy, and then you become a toddler, and then you become a teenager, and then a young adult, and then you hit maturity. And that is when you're in your prime. And then you start having the midlife evaluation or crisis, depending on how you want to term it. Then you start aging, then it's institutionalization, and then finally death. And the business has exactly the same lifestyle, but with one slight difference. So with birth, your birth of your business, everything goes into just setting that business up. But shortly after that, you end up in the infancy or toddler stage. And really a business in that stage doesn't give you a whole lot back. It gives you some grief, and you have the pride of ownership, but it really is a race for survival. And it genuinely needs 100% of your attention, and which is why at the start of a business, you do end up with a bad work-life balance. It crashes from one thing to another, and it really causes a whole lot of chaos. And really, the company is learning to walk, I suppose. But as the company grows, money is tight, and it's always about the cash flow is the biggest restraining factor. But the great thing about a business at this stage is that your people and your brand are starting to grow. But the biggest restraining factor at this stage is cash flow. And then the business kind of matures a little bit and moves into a teenager. And when a business becomes a teenager, it becomes less. The cash flow becomes less of an issue. Business is starting to make you decent money. It probably doesn't make as much profit, though. It has good cash flow, but it's not generating huge profits. But one of the biggest problems is it still requires the business owner to run that business and often generate the revenue. And teenagers, as you're probably well aware if you're parents of them, are inclined to taking a few too many risks. So, and a business in the teenager stage tends to do that as well. And some pay off and lead to great success. But for other businesses, some of those risks don't pay off, and that's why quite a few businesses fail. But as I say, it's really a stage in the business where it's run by the business owner, and the business owner is generating the revenue, and a lack of management is kind of one of the things that is a downfall to this business. So then we get on to the young adult, and the young adult business doesn't tend to take so many risks. It tends to have kind of learned from its teenage years, and it will make healthy sales and have stronger cash flow, as well as starting to make better profits. But here you'll find that the processes and the systems tend to hold that business back. It tends to be that it's still a bit too ad hoc. There's not sufficiently well-developed processes and systems to really generate success. And to progress, business owners need to make the systems more scalable and repeatable. And they also need to start to introduce a management team. So it's profitable, it's making good money, but it's still mostly being run by the business owner, but it is starting to be able to step back. And where we should all try and aim for is the mature adult stage. Mature adult is, the prime of your life. That is where the business is in its most profitable, it's at its most valuable, and it's where the business owner now has a management team in place, so that they've got more free time to do what they want to do, and I suppose have created what strategic coach would term a self-managing business. And this is where we're constantly trying to get to. This is where we want our business to get to. It's constantly evolving, it's constantly innovating, and it's being run by a team. It's no longer being run by a person. And that is where we are certainly trying to get to an efficient portfolio. We're probably not quite there yet, but we're on the path to getting there. So then we get into a midlife evaluation or midlife crisis, and things start to break down a little bit. The company loses a little bit of its pizzazz, a little bit of the things that made it innovative and brilliant are becoming less unique, and old systems become less and less dynamic. You then go moving into an aging business, and an aging business is where the breakdown continues to accelerate. Problems in the business seem to be from external causes, not internal causes, and people tend to blame others for the shortcomings, but your most talented people tend to start to leave. And then we have institutionalization, which is essentially where it's only kept alive through artificial outside help. And then, of course, finally, we have the death of a business. And if we think about Apple, Apple was a perfect example of this. After Steve Jobs was booted out in 1985, the company really started to age, and it became, it actually came very close to collapse, and probably had got as far as institutionalization. But when Steve Jobs returned in 1997, in order to try and save it, he massively simplified the range. He took it from, I can't remember how many products, but literally, I think it was something like 60 products down to about 6 products. He really narrowed it down. And then he ramped up the innovation in the business, leading to things like the iMac, then the iPod, then iTunes, then the iPhone, then the iPad. And it was through innovation that Steve Jobs brought Apple back from institutionalization back to being mature adult. And this is one thing that I suppose appears different to how the business lifestyle works to the human life cycle, in that you can move backwards in time. A business can go back from aging back to a mature adult, and it does that through innovation. In theory, actually, a person can do the same. You can have somebody that really has a physical, a kind of internal body age of, say, 60, because they're overweight and really unhealthy. And if they get themselves back on track and lose a load of weight and get themselves fit and healthy, they may actually be able to have an internal body age of only age 40. So it is possible to do that through innovation on the personal life cycle, but that's a different story. So it so that's really the key. It's that ability to innovate. You've got to get to the management stage like Apple had got to before 1985, but equally when you go beyond beyond mature adult, it's innovation that brings you back. And so that's why I want to talk a little bit about innovation. And you probably know David Brailsford. He headed up the British cycling team as they prepared for the London 2012 Olympics, where they won an amazing 7 out of 10 gold medals. And that was with a prior Olympics of, I don't even know that there was one a gold medal in the prior Olympics from the cycling team. So it was an incredible achievement. And it was quite funny actually, because I think it was the French demanded to know what David Brailsford had done to make the British cycling team so much better than they had been previously. And he told them that he'd worked out a way to make the wheels rounder, which they apparently believed for a short period. But anyway, he hadn't done that. What he'd done, or what he put it down to, was a principle called marginal gains, which actually, having seen him speak earlier on this year, he regrets using that term because all he ever gets asked about is marginal gains. But it actually was quite amazing what he did. So he just looked at every little stage of the process and he said, how can I innovate on every little stage a bit? So these marginal gains included customized aerodynamic helmets, hot pants worn between races to keep the thighs warm, sweat resistant clothing, alcohol sprayed on the wheels at the start of race to improve traction, hypoallergenic pillows, so you've got sleep consultants in to help people get the right levels of sleep. In fact, it got to the point where he was looking after Team Sky. They were taking each person's bed, not just the cyclist, but all of the team's bed from location to location each day, so that they always slept on the same mattress. Because he knew that every little gain took them a step closer to their goals because of a compound effect. Because if you get a 10% gain on one bit and a 10% gain on the next bit and a 10% gain on the next bit, you don't end up with a total 10% gain. You end up with a massive compounded effect on that gain. And that's one of the principles that I want to kind of touch on now. In one of the previous Breakthrough Business Breakfasts, I talked about having your own unique process. And that's the process that we take, essentially the client journey as they come to you. So I haven't actually got the slide here, but essentially for us, that's the exploration meeting, which is the initial meeting between the, actually it's not, the first step is the free finance call, which is originally the conversation between the client and the potential client to make sure that A, we can help them, and B, to find the right financial planner to help them. Then assuming that we can help them, the next stage is the exploration meeting, where we spend time understanding their current situation and also helping them clarify what's important for them in the future so we can build a financial plan to deliver that. Then we have the efficient financial plan, which is where we design all of the plan and all the stuff that they how to mitigate their concerns and maximize their opportunities. Then we have the planning meeting where we kind of explain the bits that we've put together for them, answer any questions they've got on it. Then we implement those ideas, and then we have the progressive review program, which is where their financial planning continues to evolve with them. So one of the things that we do every year, and it's one of the principles that I put down, in fact, it's probably the one principle that I say is almost entirely responsible for us growing our new business sales by over 50% for 5 of the last 7 years. And that is this principle of what we call 10 by 10 by 10. And essentially, it's trying to get marginal gains out of every step in your business. So what we'll do once a year is we all sit together as a team. We spend half a day on this, and we look at it and go, right, and we look at each stage. So the first stage is, where do we generate new clients from? So we'll look at the number of sources. So some come in from referrals from accountants and solicitors and other businesses. So we'll look at those as an example. We'll look at social media and digital marketing. We'll look at seminars and webinars and things like that. And for every one of those, we'll be looking at how can we gain, well, how can we make it 10% better? Then we'll look at, right, free finance call. How can we make that stage 10% better? How can we make the next stage 10% better? And by looking at each and every stage and looking for a 10% gain, and 10% never feels that much. What I love about it is the team are quite happy. Oh yeah, 10%. You know, we could probably improve that 25% if we really try. And he said, well, okay, what ideas can we come up with? We only need to get it to 10%. What would be the best ideas to get it, improve it by 10%? And it helps come up with so many good ideas. And you implement those and you don't get a 10% growth, you get way, way, way better growth because of the compound effect of all of those different improvements. And it's one of the best ways I've found to innovate in our business. And I strongly encourage you to do it once a year. And as I say, we block out half a day, we do it towards the end of the year, and we just look at every stage of the business and say, how can we make a 10% gain? And I think that the other principle around innovation, or next principle around innovation I want to talk about is, I don't know if you've read Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed, brilliant book. But what I love about it is it's kind of the approach to innovation. So the best example I can give you from this book is Unilever, the maker of washing powders and the like, have a real problem with the washing powder manufacture process. And there was a particular nozzle in the process that was causing complete chaos. And it was costing them a fortune. It was failing and it wasn't delivering what they needed. And this little nozzle was just costing them an absolute fortune. So they got all the best engineers together in the business, and they said, right, we need you to redesign this nozzle and make it better. And the engineers continually tried and continually failed to improve this nozzle. And in an act of desperation, what they did was they decided to ask the scientists within Unilever to try and fix the problem. And the scientists, the biologists actually, sorry, to be more specific, had no knowledge of how this nozzle worked or really what the problems were. But what they did was they applied a biological approach to it, an evolutionary approach to it. So what they did was they took the current nozzle and they made 100 different variations, and they tried all of them. And they found the one that made the best improvement, and then they made 100 variations of that version, and they tried all of them, and they found the best one that worked there. And they actually, without any real understanding of the problem, they were able to evolve their way to a nozzle that no longer failed and that saved Unilever an absolute fortune. And I liken this process to the evolution in our business, because what things could you achieve in your business, but that take trial and error? So the best example I can give is with regards to marketing. So when you're marketing on social media, for example, you always want to have a split test. You always want to have at least 2 versions of that advert going at any one time, ideally more, because you might say, well, look, this is the best ad copy, this is the best ad design, this is going to be the one that works. But if you put it along, you then split test it, so you do one ad for one group of people and a different ad for another group of people, you may find that the ad that you didn't think was as good actually converts people better. So what you then do is you take ad 2 and go, right, let's now make another variation of that ad. And you constantly evolve it so that the only way you could do this is by measuring the results. You've got to be able to measure the results. Advertising blind and just doing one lot of advertising doesn't help you achieve anything. Whereas innovating like this and measuring the results will allow you to evolve your marketing, even though you don't know what really is going to capture the imagination of your perfect client best. Evolution will help you find it, as long as you measure the results. It's a really good book. I really encourage you to read it. So I think you've got to think about how can you constantly innovate in your business. Marketing is one example. So split testing works really well, but there's so many other things that you can apply, principles that you can apply this to in in business, whether it be your backstage process or whether it be the way you approach a particular meeting, way that the clients get met in reception, whatever it is. There's lots of different things that you can apply this approach to. So another principle I want to talk about is that this around innovation is that we need to be all looking for ways that we can innovate. Now, the example I'm going to give you here is, so when I first started getting to triathlon in my first year, I decided I wanted to, by the end of the year, I wanted to have got to a half Ironman. So I did I put the Vitruvian in the diary, which is the Rutland Water, and I managed to complete the half Ironman in 6 hours in my first year of triathlons. And then I decided, so the second year, and I got in my head, my 3-year goal was to do an Ironman, which I then ended up doing, as most of you know, last September in Italy. But my second year goal was not to get to the Ironman stage, because I knew that was probably too much of a stretch, but it was to significantly improve my half Ironman to the point where I was confident enough to be able to set myself another 1-year goal to go and do the Ironman. And so I really needed to get my time down from 6 hours to 5.5 hours. Now, taking half an hour off is quite a significant chunk. But what I did was I decided essentially to try and innovate in every different step. So with swimming, instead of swimming on my own, I joined up with a bunch of guys that were swimming 3 times a week that genuinely knew what they were doing. So I was following their swim sets and basically going through a very different swimming regime, learning from their experience, but really trying to improve the swimming that way. With the cycling, I then started cycling with a group of people as well, but I also invested in the turbo trainer and bought into some specific training programs on a thing called Trainer Road. So again, I was looking into that. And then on running, I was reading books around trying to get the best running technique. And basically, I was just trying to innovate every different step in the same way that David Brailsford was doing it with the cycling team, just on a whole lot lower level, a whole lot slower than they were going. And what I managed to do was I managed to get my time from 6 hours down to actually 5 hours, 15 minutes. So I took 45 minutes off my half Ironman time. And that was just purely by innovating and looking at the different stages. And so I think that what you need to do is you need to encourage your entire team to take this approach. And so the way that we do that in our business is we have a principle called working on the business. And what we insist on, this is not an option, this is an insist on, is that for 1 hour a month, they down tools, they stop doing their normal job, and they work on the business. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, get them to sit there and think, how could I improve this business? If they work in the power planning team, how can I improve what we do from a power planning perspective? But equally, it doesn't have to be related to what they do. So it might be that a power planner sits down and goes, well, do you know what? I can see that the client relationship managers are making this part of the business process slower than they need to, or they're making my job more difficult. So it's that opportunity to sit down and say, right, okay, how can we improve? So once a month, Charlotte, who is my office manager, gets an email from each of the different team members, or at least she should. Some of them aren't always 100% compliant. But gets an email once a month, and it's always about, right, how can we improve this business? And what we're trying to do is breed the mindset of a team of entrepreneurs. So it's an entrepreneurial mindset, but working inside a business. So that's what we describe the team at Efficient Portfolio as a team of entrepreneurs. And it's a brilliant principle, because what you start, sometimes we'll have a theme for it as well. So we will say, okay, so for example, when we were moving our office from Seaton to Oakham, one of the principles was, right, I want you're working on the business theme this month or this quarter to be around making that the best office possible. And we had all sorts of different suggestions on what a great office would look like. And what came out of that was several people mentioned stand-up desks. I thought, you know what, actually, I really want a stand-up desk. I think this is a good idea. And so in the end, we put in stand-up desks for everyone in the team. Now, some of us use it more than others. It's actually the thing that by working from home during lockdown, it's the thing I've missed probably after seeing the team. It's the thing I've missed next by not working in the office. I really missed the stand-up desk. It's made working at a computer so much better for me. But it was an idea that was born out of working on the business, and so many other ideas that made our office in Oakham really good were born out of that project. So I encourage you to get your team to do this 1 hour a month, or whatever you feel appropriate, but 1 hour a month. Send you an email, we get it all documented so that we can go back and look at a record of it. But put down tools and think about how they can improve their business. Google actually take this to an extreme, and they have 20% of an employee's time is called Google time. And in that, they can do anything they want. They can be working on any project that might be completely unrelated to their day job at Google. But it's in that Google time that some of Google's best inventions, like Google Maps, like Gmail, were all created. So it really is a powerful principle. I want to combine that with another principle that we have at Efficient Portfolio called the Learning Library. So as I mentioned right at the start, I'm a big reader of books. Here's a few of my favorite business books. And so I read these books because I know that everyone, even if I only get one good idea from them, then it's worth reading. And I've sort of said to people in the Breakthrough Business Breakfast, it doesn't have to be. I'm dyslexic. I'm a very slow reader, but reading books does not have to be time-consuming. I listen to almost all the books I consume. I listen to them in the car. I listen to them on the bike. I listen to them when I'm running. I get through about a book a week, and that has just meant that I've picked up so many ideas along the way, and these books here have given me some of the best and most transformational ideas that I've had in our business and in my personal life as well. But what I realized was that these books were amazing for me and amazing for our business, but they were also amazing when somebody in the team read them. But they didn't used to read them by choice. They would do other things. So what I introduced at Efficient Portfolio was what we call the Learning Library. And so what I will do is I will encourage them to read the books that are in the Learning Library, and typically 95% of the books in the Learning Library are books that I've read and thought, yep, that's a great book. That will go in the Learning Library. Some are ones that have been recommended by other people. But essentially what we will say is we have this scale called, I can't remember what the scale is called, but you'll have like the guru and the wizard and etc. And you can progress up that scale the more of these books you read. And these aren't the pensions exam book or the investments exam book. They will be studying those anyway, but these are books that will help them develop as a person, because if they develop as a person, then we benefit from that within our business. And we will actually also pay them more. So we increase their salary based on every 5 books in the Learning Library they read, because we know it's really powerful. And one of the things that works really nicely is to combine that with the working on the business concept. So when they've finished reading a book, we tell them that for that book to qualify in the Learning Library, they've got to take that book and move it into, they've got to use that as the theme for their working on the business once a month. So that means that potentially, so let's take an example, the Referral Engine, brilliant book by John Yance. One of your team might have just read the Referral Engine, and you get a limited to one page working on the business. So 1 page write-up of how they think that they can take the principles of the Referral Engine and improve your business. So let's just look at the Referral Engine just as an example. So it talks about how referred prospects anticipate paying a premium and do so willingly because of the social proof. So a referred prospect is way more valuable as a client, as a prospect, than somebody that comes in through a traditional marketing mechanism, whether that be a seminar, webinar, through social media, through an advert, whatever it is. A referred prospect, whether it's referred from an accountant, solicitor, insurance company, or whether it's referred from a client, is a way more valuable client because they're warm. They already know, they've got third-party endorsement. They know that they can trust you. So it's a referral is really powerful. And the referral engine talks about how the 4 C's, and it talks about how you've got to be creating content that's valuable and relevant, so that you're educating the clients, and because that builds trust for them. Sending them free education and reports and seminars and webinars and all that sort of stuff. You've got to give them context. So you've got to situate information within the context of the prospect's life, essentially helping them simplify the complex for their own situation. You've got to help them connect, and so it's that human interaction of high tech, high touch. It's so one of the reasons why we have client relationship managers at Efficient Portfolio is so that there's that instant, that constant connection, a constant ability to pick up the phone, speak to a familiar voice, knows your situation. And then there's the community factor. There's the 4th C, and it talks about how you can empower people to gather and converse, and that can be done physically or digitally. So one of the reasons why we'll do things like our golf day and our referral dinners, but we'll do, in lockdown, we've done client quizzes, we've done client webinars, because people like to see that they're part of a tribe, they're part of a crowd. And so if you can create a community within your business, it's much better, it's much easier for them to refer people in. The book talks about how you've got to be authentic. So it's about asking ideal customers what they value, and tapping into this to communicate it as a core difference. Again, it talks about more about content and educating customers, and about how you expand that customer network and involve referral sources in the whole process. And then finally, it talks about how you can be ready to receive referrals when the opportunity presents itself, and how you receive them. So you thank them, and so we have a whole process around generating referrals and a whole process around thanking people that have given us a referral. And so it's a really powerful book because it makes you think about lots of different elements of the business and how can you generate referrals from that. And wouldn't it be powerful if one of your team had just read that and wrote to you and said, right, here's the 10 things I think we should do within, to change within the business so that we generate more referrals. And that could be coming from a client relationship manager. It could be in our business. It could be coming from a power planner. It could be coming from the person that's acting, the personal assistant, the receptionist, whatever it is. It's just a really brilliant principle to have in your business, and it ensures that it's constantly evolving, but it's not only you that drives that innovation, which for so many businesses is the case. If you want my top business books, then you can go to charlieredding.com/books, and there is a list of my top 15 business books that, if you haven't read them, I really encourage you to read all of those. They are just brilliant business books. And then one final principle I want to go through this morning with regards to innovation is what we call our energy meetings, which essentially, I have to I should have checked this. I think it stands for energized, never-ending, revolutionary growth initiative. So that's where energy was born out of. And essentially, I mentioned the 10 by 10 by 10 meeting that we do once a year. We actually have that is one of our energy meetings. We actually have an energy meeting every month. Now, it used to be when we were a smaller business that everybody in the team was in every energy meeting. But now what we've done is as we've grown as a business, that became less and less appropriate. So we will now have, for example, we'll have a front stage, what we call the front stage, which is a strategic coach term. So the front stage is everything the client sees from the minute they walk into reception to the interaction with the advisor, to the plan that they get sent, to the letters they get sent, to everything they see is what we call the front stage. So we will spend a couple of hours once a year, every year, on one of these meetings, looking at every bit of element of that and saying, right, how can we improve everything that to do with the front stage? Then the next month, and for that one, we'll probably have the advisors in there, we'll have the person that's manning reception in there, and we'll have the leadership team in there. Next one we might have is the backstage. And the backstage is what we do behind the scenes. So that would be how we build the financial plan, how we research all of the stuff that goes into the financial plan, how we build the lifetime cash flow forecasts, all of that sort of stuff, how we implement the advice that's been accepted within the plan. So that one we'll bring in the power planning team and the client relationship management team, and they'll be and the admin team, and they'll be working on that for a couple of hours as part of that energy meeting. And then there'll be one to do with marketing. One of the books I said was incredibly powerful was Influence. So by Dr. Robert Cialdini. So we'll actually do a whole energy meeting once a year based on the principles of influence, because it's such a fantastic book. And sometimes we'll also pick other books. So for example, we'll do, we have done a one-off energy meeting based on the principles of entrepreneurial revolution. We actually do one on culture, and a lot of the content from that was born out of Delivering Happiness by Tony Robbins. We'll talk about culture in the next Breakthrough Business Breakfast. We've done, I'm trying to think whether we might have done one historically on traction as well, I think. So it's a really powerful principle. One of the things I'm happy to do with you is I'm happy to share a template for these energy meetings if you would like. So if you want that, just let me know in the chat or speak up now, and I'll get that sent out. How some of it might not make complete sense because it is obviously designed for our business, but a lot of it is just asking questions, and that would apply to any business. So, but it is incredibly powerful to be spending, structuring the process. So in addition to our quarterly leadership meetings, we're spending time with the team every month in an energy meeting, working with different elements of the business. And it's a great way of getting them involved, great way of picking up some new ideas from the team. And it's a great way of constantly innovating your business, which, as I say, is the key to great success. So on that note, I'm hoping that you've all been sent an exercise called the learning journey. Is that right? Speak up now. Or... Yeah, excellent. Okay, brilliant. So in that case, so what we'll do now is I'll put on some thinking music. Although you can choose to mute it if you don't like my thinking music. I will give you, let's say, 15 minutes to complete the learning journey, but also maybe recharge your mug, and then we'll reconvene for a conversation around how to innovate in our business. But before we do that, has anybody got any questions on anything that I've talked about? No, all stunned in silence. Okay, brilliant. So in that case, if you crack on and do the learning journey exercise, grab yourself another tea and coffee. I'll unshare the screen for now.
Just a quick one, Charlie. Do you want to share the Life Library link from EP? Because that's got the visual books and the links to all the...
Yeah, so the Life Library is slightly different, isn't it? In that it is, the Life Library is more about the books that I think we should all read just to be a better person. So it's kind of, I put together what we call the Life Library, essentially to say, it was almost like a degree in life. So there was the best book that gave a summary of all different religions, the best book on a summary of economic principles. There was the best book on the body, the best book on health, the best book on mental well-being. And yeah, so yeah, please do, Nitesh. It's a slightly different type of recommendations, whereas the books on charlieredding.com are just the best business books that I've found. The Life Library is a slightly different one. So yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Nitesh.
No worries. Sharing all the knowledge.
Yeah. And actually, one thing reminded me, while you mentioned that, Nitesh, we need to add a page to charlieredding.com with the energy download that I was going to share with these guys. So I need to, I just realized that this morning that we didn't do that.
Yeah, forward it on and we'll get it sorted.
Okay, brilliant. Right, I'll leave you guys to do that. I'm going to sort out some music. And then